what I will say is, I mean, it's been shite, but we haven't been battered. Everyone's making out that Liverpool have been getting slapped up every week. They haven't. We've narrowly lost games, which we could have narrowly won. We're still in a decent position. I would have took this before the ball was kicked at the start of the season to be 2 points off, considering what happened. We've had a massively tough start. The fixtures, no one's talking about that. You look at we were saying off air then, we've played two away games, one of the most two tough away games. Yeah, look, let's not get too carried away. I know everyone's having a little bit more fun than us at the minute, but you're going to have shite weeks following Liverpool. You're going to have great weeks following Liverpool, and this one's a shite one. As long as we sort ourselves out, we've got 2 weeks. I know the players away international, get back, and we batter Man United, everyone will be feeling all right.
Yeah, Keo's done the whole show. That's going to be all of it. No, I sort of want to break this down into 3 strands of reason, because there's a couple of things that you've mentioned there, Keo, and I'll come to you on this, Beth, because it feels like at the moment there's an overall lack of form, there's an individual lack of form, and then a sort of overall and individual lack of morale and confidence maybe. So I want to start with the overall lack of form, because one of the sort of criticism sort of slot over the weekend, and I'm not taking the wild corner of the internet criticism, the slot where people are calling for him to be sacked, because I honestly don't believe those people genuinely believe that. I think that's just rage bait that we shouldn't really engage with. But the genuine criticism of Slot is that it seems like he's gone away a little bit from what was working last season. Do you think that's a fair criticism?
Yeah, I think to an extent, but I also think to an extent his hands has been forced a little bit, because you look at the probably the best thing about Liverpool last season was that consistent ability to play that midfield. That was sort of the heart of everything, and that allowed Salah to be brilliant in front of them, and it really helped out the defence behind. And this season, I think they've played together. Was it the second time that all 3 of them have started together this season? McAllister, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. And listen, McAllister's just a million miles off it.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai and Gravenberch are probably Liverpool's 2 players of the season so far, but half of Szoboszlai's minutes, more than half probably, have come at right back. So I think he's obviously, McAllister's not been fit. The right back situation was out of his hands because Trent wanted to go, so they had to change at right back. That wasn't his decision to get rid of Trent. It was just that was.
I'm also Team Virgil on that. I'm just not having that as an excuse. Like,
no,
even in the same ballpark as an excuse. For
even if it was an excuse, I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
and also to be, I think Trent was a brilliant player for Liverpool. He absolutely was. But I don't think last season, I think he was probably 8th or 9th on the list of players whose influence was impacted last season. So I don't really buy into that. But obviously the chopping and changing at right back has happened because you don't have your natural first choice right back there. So I think in terms of the midfield and McAllister not being fit, he's had to make changes. In terms of the forward line as well, I think there's been a lot of talk about people missing Luis Diaz, and I was really disappointed to see Diaz go, and I did always think that he didn't necessarily get the accolades that he deserved when he was at Liverpool, because he wasn't always the flashiest and he wasn't always super prolific, but I always felt like his work rate and sort of his grit and everything like that was really good for Liverpool, and obviously had his best season in a Liverpool shirt in terms of numbers. So I did think it was a little bit of a shame that he left, but I understood from a business perspective why he did. But also I think probably half the people now saying that they missed Diaz were slagging him off last season. So again, but I think he had to make changes to the forward line. His hand was forced by Diaz going, by Núñez going. I think we all accepted that Núñez was going to go, and then obviously what happened to Diogo Jota is so that's 3 of your forwards, it's half of your forward line gone. So I think he has changed things, and there maybe are certain things that he could go back to, but I also think a lot of the change has been enforced, and unfortunately for Liverpool, I think this is just a little bit of a teething period while he tries to establish his strongest 11, because last season, from very early on, he knew to sort of at least 9 or 10 players that he was going to pick week in, week out, and I don't think he does that at the moment.
Yeah, that's all more than fair from Beth there, Jay. And I sort of wonder when I'm looking at it that there's a couple of players in particular last season who, when you watch them, you felt like Slot had sort of simplified their jobs, and even Trent, you can sort of throw into that as someone that Slot simplified the job, and definitely in the first half of the season before the sort of madness ramped up, it felt like that was a benefit to him. I just wonder whether now there's a couple of players you look at, even Gakpo looks a different player from last season, so he looks like he's got a slightly different job to do, albeit people are calling him one-dimensional and things now, but even that like defensive work that Beth mentions with Diaz there, I'm seeing Gakpo try and sort of incorporate that more into his game and probably struggle with that. He keeps finding himself, too deep, rather where he needs to be close to the goal. So do you think there is just an extent to which things are a little bit overcomplicated now almost?
Slightly. I think it's the first year of like Slot's iteration of his own squad, because last year he's using a Klopp squad and he's not getting by, because you win the league, don't you? So he's not getting by winning the league, but he's got his players and he's gone, how am I going to fit these players into a system that works for this season? Well, I've made no signings other than Chiesa, but obviously he doesn't get a look in. I think this season is the first, like I say, iteration of Slot's brought in how many players he brought in to make his starting 11 as good as he thinks it will be over the course of the next 5 years. I just think it's been a stylistic change as well, because you're looking different out of possession than last season. We're attacking differently. He doesn't quite know what his best midfield three is at the moment, and you can't drop Gravenberch, you can't drop Szoboszlai because they're both so good. Like I say, you're putting Szoboszlai right back. Even at the weekend, he wasn't bringing on Frimpong at right back for Bradley. He's putting Szoboszlai at right back, and it makes you think, has he got confidence in Frimpong yet, or is he not up to speed fitness-wise? I just think it's a bit of a transitional phase, and people from the outside of Liverpool aren't going to accept that as the truth. But for me, it's transitional, because there's so many signings coming in, and the style's completely changed. So that's what I think it comes down to mainly.
I think you're 100% correct. I mean, when he came in, he done an interview and they asked him about the similarities between him and Klopp, and he says there is some similarities, but there's differences as well. He wants to play a certain way, Slot, and it's not the exact same way Jurgen Klopp played. But as you say, he came in last year with no signings, and he's got a team was 3 wins off the top spot. So do you rip that team apart and you start trying to influence a new style of play on there, or do you build a bit of a hybrid system between the two where you've got Klopp's system and you start implementing your own? I think that's what we've seen last year, and now we've had so many personnel changes. I think we're shifting more to the way Slot's going to play, but the way is forward, the way is not back. The way is not, we look great under Klopp a couple of years ago, let's kind of start playing like that. I think what we need to do is accept that we've had a lot of change, a lot of players come in, but everyone's happy with the players that's come in.
Yeah.
No one's sitting here and going, oh, we shouldn't have signed him. Maybe 1 or 2 people are saying about certain players, but overall, everyone's made up with the summer we had, and no one wants to change the manager. So